Hi, everybody. I think we got some people coming in. As you're coming in, why don't you let us know where you're calling in from? We'll give it a few minutes before we get started. And if you could give me a thumbs up or let me know if you can hear me okay, and if you could see the PowerPoint, would be much appreciated. Ollie, where are you? All right. Thanks, everybody. Got some people from Baltimore, from Utah, Colorado, backyard Costa Mesa. Melissa, thanks for joining. Canada, very good. Okay. And then while we're also waiting, maybe help us out. Let us know how many times you've attended our masterclass. If this is your first time, put a one. If you've been here more times, how many times have you come, or just if this is your first one or not, it'd be good to know. All right, see some new people showing up for the first time. So thanks everybody for jumping on. Hopefully everybody is getting ready for the holiday week next week, Thanksgiving. Um, I know it's been a busy time of year, so looking forward to that as well. Okay, well, I think we got quite a few people. More people continue to probably show up. Um, my co-host Charles, he'll probably be joining in a little bit too. He's wrapping up a client call. Um, but we'll go ahead and get started. Um, so let me see here. You can see my screen okay. So yeah, thank you for joining. This is actually, believe it or not, our 14th master class. And what we're going to cover today is actually doing a live build where we're going to create a self-running project risk AI agent directly in NetSuite, is what we're going to cover how to do today. But before we get into that, just kind of want to touch on what our overall objective is. So we've started this, monthly masterclass because we have found that quite a few people struggle with NetSuite. They love it. It's such a great, robust system, but maybe isn't the most user friendly or intuitive, up front. And there's a lot of things that, probably aren't even scratching the surface on, right? So whether it's lack of training or exposure to things like save searches, mass updates, using workflows to automate a lot of business processes and things like that. Um, the most common thing that we hear talking to clients and prospects every day is, I don't know what I don't know. Like I didn't even know I could do that in NetSuite. Sometimes it's a simple thing, sometimes it's a complex thing, but um, either way, our goal is to help educate people, show them what's possible, help companies and their employees get the maximum value and utility out of the NetSuite platform and ecosystem. So that's our objective when we're doing this. Um, as far as an agenda goes, we'll do some quick introductions about Scale North and a high-level overview. And then we'll jump right into the actual masterclass and the use case. So again, what we're going to cover is creating an AI agent that will detect project risk and ultimately update the project record, flagging it at risk, putting what the response was, why it thinks it's at risk, and then it will send an email and alert the project manager. That's what we're going to show how to do today. And the solution will leverage some saved searches, a workflow action script, and then an AI prompt from the prompt studio within NetSuite. And then we'll finish with a live Q&A and next steps. Hey, Charles, I see you just joined.
Hey there. Sorry about that.
All good. So we're just going through the agenda. Can you see the screen okay, Charles? Okay,
Yep,
perfect. All right. So, hey, Charles, just in time for your introduction. Why don't you let everybody know who you are and why you're late?
I'm nobody. That's who I am. So no, it's Charles Stevenson sales. But really want to introduce Mr. Dean, who we came to see. 15 years of experience in NetSuite, public and private background. 2 years as an actual user, but 7 years here in-house at Scale North, doing some of our largest and most complex implementations. So you're definitely learning from the man, the myth, the legend here.
Thanks, Charles.
Good. So just quickly about us, make this very fast. We have over 280 people. We're one of the largest NetSuite specific consulting firms in North America. A lot of years experience. I think the numbers on the right, we're probably we process almost 3 billion in revenue in NetSuite for our outsourced accounting clients. So we're probably one of the biggest users of NetSuite. We're not just actually third party, and 57% of our staff are CPAs as well. So I think those are probably the biggest ones. Our services at a glance. So NetSuite implementation, right? We do a lot of rescue implementations as well. Outsourced accounting, like we said, we process almost 3 billion in revenue, and then consulting and optimization services. And then we have a technical development group. We can pretty much build anything you want in there as well. We have um, 3 apps on the Suite app that are published right now as well. Let's go next one. Just tech partners, some of the usual suspects you probably know of. These are just a handful of our partners that we are partnered with and that our clients love as well. So we have a lot of experience in this space.
Okay. Thanks, Charles. I
Yep.
appreciate that. Um, Yeah, just a common disclaimer before we really jump into the details. The purpose of these classes is to be demonstrative and educational. We recommend if you're going to try out any of this stuff, hopefully you have a sandbox and you're doing it in a sandbox and not just doing any of this stuff in your production environment. And then we just have to disclaim Scale North is not responsible for any actions not performed by Scale North. So if you go blow up your NetSuite instance, maybe we can help you fix it, but we're not responsible for that happening. So getting that disclaimer out of the way, we'll jump right into the actual masterclass now. So again, let's jump into how we're going to create an AI project risk agent. So when anytime we're looking at a solution, most consultants probably follow a similar methodology as we do, but we want to break it down into its parts. So any solution will be broken down into what are the configuration elements and the functional elements, and then what is the technical or development elements You combine those two things together to get an ultimate holistic solution. So we're going to cover the configuration, the development, and then we'll do some testing to make sure our solution works. So the configuration that we're going to walk through today, there's 6 steps. Um, the first one is going to be we're going to create project risk and project risk note fields. We need some fields to be able to, store what's going on with projects and whether they're at risk or not. Then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to create an AI prompt save search. That search is going to be used to basically take data or variables or columns off of the save search and pass it into an AI prompt so that it can feed the data into it so that it can analyze those results and ultimately assess the risk of it. That's the search that will be used. Then the third thing that we'll do is we'll actually create the AI prompt in NetSuite. So where we're going to, send the search results to, we'll send it into a prompt. And then the fourth thing is we need to also create another save search for our workflow. That's basically the save search that will feed which project should be evaluated for project risk, um, and then take those results, pass them in. And then basically after that, we should be good. So we will actually create the workflow that will be used to do all this. And then from a development standpoint, there's going to be one simple script that basically it's a workflow action script. So that's what's going to do the automation elements of taking the results from a save search, passing it into the prompt, getting a response back from the AI prompt, and then actually going and updating the related project records and storing back the response on the project records. So that's what we're going to cover, and we're going to jump right into it now. Again, Charles, right? I guess if people have any questions along the way, maybe leverage the Q&A portion of the webinar. We'll pause periodically, maybe see if we could take some questions, or we'll maybe take them at the end, but definitely put them in the Q&A section if you have questions as we're going. So let's see here. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen for a sec. Okay. And Charles, can you see NetSuite? Okay,
Yep.
perfect. All right. So the first thing that we said we need to do is we want to actually create those fields. So to show that, we would go to customization, list record fields. And then because these would be fields on a project record, that's an entity in NetSuite. So it's entity fields. You can see we have our 2 fields right here. We'll just open them up so we can take a quick glance at those. So the first field is nothing more than a simple checkbox, right? Let's check the box if we think a project is at risk. It relates to a project record, and we're putting it on the main tab of a project. Then the second field is nothing more than a simple rich text field where we're going to dump the response from the AI prompt in. Same thing, it's a rich text field on the project. We're going to display it on the main tab of the project. Easy peasy, 2 simple fields. We're done with step 1, right, of configuration. Then the second step would be to create a save search that will be used for the AI prompt to pass the data into the AI prompt. So to do that, we'll go to reports, new search, and we'll open up a search. This is going to be a project record search. So project. All right. And then we don't need any criteria for this. We just need the results that we're going to want to use to be passed into the AI prompt. So starting off here, let's see here. We're going to do a formula text field. Let me do a create save search so we can name this. So we'll call this SNMC AI prompt project risk save search public. And then we're going to add the following fields. So we're going to start off with a formula text field. Oh, sorry, on the wrong tab. On the results. We don't need any criteria for this one. I meant to be doing this on the results tab. So start off with a formula text. And the formula is just take the project manager off of the um, project, project manager set. And then it's important that however we label these are going to be how the variables are needs to be the exact same way when we set up our AI prompt. So we're gonna just name it like this, project underscore manager. The reason why we're putting an underscore in between and not just is to avoid spaces. That way, when the script that runs that tries to parse the data in and all that stuff, sometimes spaces can get a little finicky. So this just helps it be a little bit cleaner. That's why we're putting this type of syntax of an underscore in between words. Then we just keep adding our remaining fields. So up next would be the status on the project because that's one word, no spaces, that should be fine. This is case sensitive too. So however you do it here in the column labels of your search, it has to be the exact same way in the prompt. Otherwise, it will fail. The script will fail. So just important to call out that you do have to be exact. So we got that. Then we'll keep adding our next fields. So let's take the planned work off of the project. And again, because that's two words, I'll do planned underscore work. And then next, we're going to add in allocated work. So same thing, allocated underscore work. And then next, we got actual work on the project. So then we'll do actual underscore work. Keep going. Then we got remaining work on the project. So we'll go remaining underscore work. Want to make sure I got it. Yeah, okay. Um, and then we want percent. Let's see, percent. Let me try that again. Does this feel called? Percent time complete. So then we'll do percent underscore time underscore complete. Okay, a few more fields to add. We'll add in percent complete by resource allocation. Call that percent complete underscore resource. Okay, and then we'll add in what is the start date on the project. So start underscore date. And then we got what is the calculated end date? Calculated end date. And then we got the actual end date. Actual end date. So that you see, I'm just taking some fields off of a project record in a saved search is essentially what we're doing. And I think that all looks good. So we can save and run this search. So here we go, right? I got some data. Who's the project manager? What's the status of the project? Some hours, percent complete, start date, calculated end date, right? So we have some data that we can then use to feed in to a prompt. So now that we got that done, we can proceed to our third step, which is now we'll actually build the AI prompt in NetSuite. So to do that, we're going to go to setup company. Uh, I think a lot of people don't even know that there was AI feature in NetSuite right now. So if you go to setup company and you actually have a section here for AI. You have your AI preferences and then you have your prompt studio is where we're going to build the prompt. So if you come out here to prompt, you can see we can hit create a new prompt. Okay. And one thing you'll notice is it wants variables to be in this format of a dollar sign and brackets. So that's how we're going to do it when we're setting up this prompt. but we'll start by naming this. So I'm going to call it, um, let's do V2 SNMC project risk prompt. And then let's give it an ID. So V2 SNMC prompt uh, project risk prompt. Okay, so we got an ID, we got a name. Um, we're gonna change this to be a let's see, we're gonna change this to be a generic prompt type instead of text, and it changes the setting a little bit. We then want the model family to be Cohere Command R plus. Okay, and then max tokens, we set this at 4,000. And then I left this other stuff the same. Temperature, I don't even know what some of the stuff is. We left that alone. And then what we can do is, so this is kind of similar to writing a prompt in ChatGPT. I actually used ChatGPT to help come up with a prompt that we could use to analyze project risk. So I'm going to paste that in here, what we use. So essentially came up with this type of response or prompt response. So, you are an expert project risk analyst. You will be given detailed data points about a project, such as project metrics, deadlines, resource allocation, stakeholder feedback, and budget status. Your task is to determine whether the project is currently at risk or not at risk. Carefully analyze the provided information and decide if there are any signs of delays, overruns, poor performance, resource shortages, or communication issues that could threaten project success. Thank you, ChatGPT. That's very helpful. So we kind of have that going for us. Then next, what we'll have to add into this prompt, and this is mostly for our script so that it can update the records appropriately. We're going to add a formatting kind of text response. We're going to instruct it on how we want it to give us back the response. So this is basically saying, hey, output your response in a JSON format, right? Because then we're going to take that outputted response in a JSON format, and the script will use that to perform the automation of updating the records and whatnot. So once we've added that in, let's see. Then we can go ahead and let's save this. Okay, so we've saved our prompt. Next, what we need to add in is basically uh, our fields, our column fields. Remember, we just created this AI prompt search, and here's all the columns that we want to add in. So that's basically what we're going to add into our prompt. So we'll go back and edit. And then we should just be able to copy those fields. So you see here, this is the project data I wanted to analyze. Project manager is basically going to take the project manager status is status, start date. So this is where we're saying off of the save search, these are those same column labels here that we're now putting into our prompt so that it can parse it. So once we have that embedded, then we can actually test this out here. There's a generate preview section. So to do a test, I'm going to say, let's pretend that the start date of the project was 11/1/25. Okay, let's just say that the planned work was 1,000 hours. Let's say that the actual work is 1,120 hours, so they're already over budget. So hopefully that means this thing should recognize that this is probably a risk. And then let's say the remaining work is 300 hours. So you can kind of play with this in this generate preview. If I hit generate preview, It's running, and now it's returning the response in a JSON format because we told it to return the response in a JSON format. And if you zoom in here, it's saying this project is at risk due to potential delays and resource management issues. The project has made progress with 1,120 hours of actual work completed. Allocated work is not specified, and there's still 300 hours left on the project, which seems significant considering progress made so far. Additionally, the project's end date is crucial. I don't know. This is what AI thinks this project's at risk just by evaluating some of the variables that we fed it. Um, so this is basically the prompt section of this. So I think that wraps up on creating our prompt. I'll go ahead and save that. And then really quick, lastly, before we end, on this prompt section, I want to show where you can see if you go back to company and AI preferences. NetSuite right now is not charging for the usage, apparently. I think if you exceed your usage, then at some point you're going to have to start paying for extra usage. But if you go into this sub-tab Prompt Studio, it's telling me that I have 2,000 points, or sorry, 20,000 points for the month of November, and I've only used 12. So that's not too bad on that front. And then on the Suite Script side, same thing, 20,000, but I've only used 344. So this can be fairly taxing, right? This is more of a demonstration on a small sample set in a demo environment. If you have hundreds and thousands of projects and you feed those in on a daily basis into this prompt to run, you could use up 20,000 points in a month pretty easily. So it will really depend on your overall use case, how much volume and all that stuff that you have. And at some point, you might have to pay for extra usage, but for our demonstration purposes and use cases, it's not even that taxing from a usage perspective. So I just wanted to kind of show that. All right. So up next, we will now proceed to creating the saved search that will feed our workflow, which projects to evaluate for risk. So we're going to build another saved search really quick. Going to go to reports, new search. Again, this is a project search. Okay, create a saved search. And this is a pretty basic search. Let's name this. So SNMC workflow project risk save search, make it public. So this is which projects would we want to return to ultimately feed into our AI prompt to analyze for risk? Obviously, I don't want every project. I don't need to look at closed projects. I don't need to look at inactive projects. So you could filter it down however it makes sense. But for now, I'm just going to say I don't need to look at inactive projects. And maybe I only want to look at projects that are in a status of in progress. You could figure out whatever filtering you want, but that's just what we're doing for our use case. And then as far as results go, it'll be pretty basic. We'll just say, give us the ID of the project, give us the name of the project, uh, give us our custom fields that we created. Is the project at risk? And then what was the project at risk notes? Very basic search. Can go ahead and save and run it. So you can see in here are projects that were flagged at risk and what the response was from the AI prompt that got stored on that project record. So we'll use this here in a bit when we go to run the automation. So now we've set up our search. So the next step is to create the script that will be used for the automation part of taking the response, updating the project record, checking the box at risk, and basically storing these notes. So to set up a script, right, we go to customization scripts. Okay. And we have a workflow action script here. You can basically see that this script is only a couple lines of code, so it's not a huge amount of code. Um, and essentially, once we have our script in place, that's just for the automation piece. So we got our script, and the last thing that we need to do is basically create our workflow. So we will set up a workflow, customization, workflows, new. So let's go ahead and give it a name, SNMC, project, risk, check. Maybe call this a V2, and then underscore V2, SNMC, project, risk, check. Okay, so I got my name, I got an ID. So what record type does this workflow apply to? It applies to projects. We're gonna do, I'm the owner, I'll execute it as an admin. We'll leave it in testing for now. You would release it if you were good with it and wanted it to be running in production or running. We'll enable logging. This is gonna be a scheduled workflow. So we check that box. And now it wants you to know, well, what save search is it going to use as the basis to schedule and run off of? So that is going to be our SN workflow project search. And then we don't need this to repeat and we should be good. So if we're good on those main settings, we can actually save and create the workflow. So now I have a blank starting point for a workflow. We can double click into this state and give this a name. I'm going to call this is going to be our AI project risk agent. Okay, just going to give it a name. So now you see we've got that named. And then next we can start adding in our actions, our workflow actions. So to add in your workflow actions, you double click in and you can now see I'm going to add a new action. So the first action that we're going to add is our workflow action script. Once we created that script, it now shows up as available as being one of the list of the actions that you can take. So we'll click on that. And essentially, this script just wants to know two parameters or two values so that it knows what to do and what to run on. So the first thing it's asking for is which AI prompt am I supposed to go look at and run? So we got to give it the ID of the AI prompt that we want it to point to and run on. And then the second thing it's asking for is what save search should I use to basically feed the values into the prompt. So that's what we need to get. So to get to the prompt ID, if you go back to your prompt that we set up, it's this script ID field right here. So we just have to copy this exactly, and then we can come back to our workflow and paste that in here. So this is where I'm telling it, use this prompt ID. Then the save search is going to be our SNMC. It's going to be our AI prompt project risk search. So that's the search that we need. Pretty simple. That's the only thing we need to set up is the action. Tell me which prompt, tell me which search. The script's going to take care of the heavy lifting and what's left. So save. And then the next action that we want to add to our workflow is we want to send an email. If a project does get flagged at risk, let us notify the project manager that, hey, we think your project might be at risk, right? So we'll add another action, workflow action. This is going to be a send email action. And then on here, we just specify our fields that, send the email from the project manager, send the email to the recipient, the project manager, or job. It's called job manager here, but same thing, project manager. I'm going to go ahead and CC myself just to make sure I'm getting the emails. And then you can set up an email template that should be used. So we already set one up called SNMC project at risk email template. And then we want to add a condition to this action to say only send an email if. So you go up here to the condition section, you pop open this thing, and essentially we're going to say if the old record field value, so if the project at risk checkbox was not checked, so it wasn't at risk, and then it becomes checked, so is checked, then that's when we want to send an email. So only look for projects that have gone from not at risk to at risk and send an email letting them know. So that's the condition. And then we can save that and we can save. Okay. So I know we jammed through that really fast. Sorry, I'm too excited, and I've had a lot of coffee and little sleep. So hopefully we'll be able to answer some questions on all that stuff. But we've essentially built our solution, right? We created our searches, we created our fields, we created a workflow, we created an AI prompt. Now we just got to see if all this stuff works together. Hopefully it does. So now we'll do the important part, which is test. So to basically test this, let's see. We want to bring up our search. So save search. SNMC work our workflow search, because this is what's going to feed in to the workflow. And I'm going to reset a couple of these to no, not at risk, so that we can actually test it and make sure that if it's evaluating it and flagging them to risk. So I will just check one of these, uncheck the at-risk box, and remove the response on that one. And then let's maybe pick another one, maybe this one. Okay, so I flagged two, I unchecked two of them, basically resetting them. And then let's actually add that condition into the search so that we can just see the two that we're going to process on. Um, so project at risk is no. So now my save search that is attached to my workflow, I have it filtered down to only showing two results. So these are the two that it's gonna try to run on. So we got that set up. And then next, if we go back into our workflow, okay, if we edit this, there we go. So as long as you're on the workflow and you go into edit mode and we're in testing, you do have the option to execute now so that we don't have to wait for, I think you could have this running every 30 minutes. So every 30 minutes, the search would be feeding the AI prompt projects to evaluate. It would run its thing and update projects. So this could be happening, basically running in the background. But for now, we're just going to do it on demand so we don't have to wait. So I'm going to hit execute now. I don't know if you saw that little quick glitch that it did, but hopefully that means that it basically fired the workflow. And then if we come back over to our search and hit refresh, you see one of them already fell off. And then we'll hit refresh again. It may take a while. And it's gone. So it processed both of those, right? Just by running the workflow. Let me check my email to see if I got an alert. All right, here we go. I just got emailed. This project is at risk due to the following. It's made some progress, 44% complete by time entries, but the actual work is 128. It's far behind the planned work at this stage. This indicates that the project is not on track and may be facing delays. Furthermore, the allocated work of 1,101 hours is much higher than the planned work suggesting that resource allocation may be a concern. This could lead to an overworked team members and potential burnout, impacting the project's progress and quality. So again, AI is thinking that we can actually view the record right from here. So now we're on that project record, and you can see here's where the AI prompt stored the notes. Here's where it flagged it as at risk. If we actually look at the system information on this field, we can see that at 12:37, not or at 12:36, I manually unchecked it, and at 12:37, when we executed the workflow, it automatically flagged it back and stored the response. So you can see that it basically is working. And you can validate that some of these variables should be coming right off of this project record. So 128 hours matches actual work 128 hours, planned work 288, planned work 288. So it's kind of a cool solution, right? I mean, yeah, AI, it could do a lot of stuff and whatever, but um, I think it's a very unique example of where language learning model is really good at saying, give me a bunch of information and data and let me analyze it for you, right? How long would it take you to look at every project that you had and possibly pinpoint or flag that maybe something's going on that you should be taking a closer look? You could set this thing up and let it run, and it basically is going to tell you why it thinks it's at risk. So hopefully you're just kind of spot checking and validating. Um, I don't know. It seemed like an interesting use case. That kind of concludes, walking through from start to finish how you would build out something like this. Um, Charles, I'll hand it back to you. I think we could get into some Q&A and just see what overall thoughts, feedback, concerns were.
Yep. I think we have a couple questions. One is from the chat. Travis had, how can we be confident that AI defines risk the same as we do? Example, we allow a 10% threshold and AI allows 5%.
Put that in your prompt. In your prompt, you give it instructions of hey, I want you to only, look at where, there's a 10% variance or whatever. I think if you're very specific in your prompt, then it will use that when evaluating the variables based on the context that you gave it. So I think in here you would just try to build in telling it, make sure to look for, things falling between these parameters and these parameters. I think if you build it into your prompt, it will work itself into it when it's looking at it.
Um, and then Roy had one says looks like this great tool. How it can be used? What comes to mind is auto responding to any quotes that haven't been responded to and are about to expire.
Is that in the Q&A, Charles?
Yeah, the
Which
very
one was
bottom.
it? Oh, the very bottom. This looks like a great tool. That one, how can it be used? Oh, okay, I see. This looks like a great tool. How can it be used? What comes to mind is auto responding to any quotes that haven't been responded to. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the use case that will make the most sense for your business and the way that you can use it. We personally are using it here at Scale North to auto categorize inbound leads as they come in. Um, so based on somebody's inquiry, if they're saying something about accounting, then we know it's an accounting lead, right? If they're saying, NetSuite admin or NetSuite support, then we know it's a NetSuite support lead, right? If they're saying interested in purchasing NetSuite, then we know it's a so that's how we're using it, but there's endless use cases. I think anything that is good at anywhere where you want to like evaluate a large amount of information and kind of take action off of that could be a good use case for something like this.
Good stuff. I think that was it. I don't think we have any more questions. Actually, Just one just came in. Michael said, so for this use case, how would this be scheduled to run once a day?
So the use case here is if we go back to our workflow, if we were good on it, where am I? So if we go back into the workflow settings, if I now that we've tested it and we were good, we would change this to released, and then we would change this to you could say repeat and on which date and on which time, and then it would just be running uh, daily. So that's how you can set it up to basically run on a scheduled basis. So if you do repeat here, you could tell it, I want it to run every 30 minutes, or I want it to run daily, or I want it to run weekly. This is where you schedule the frequency. And then what happens is it will trigger the workflow on the schedule that you set, and then it's going to go run this save search to figure out which project should be evaluated. And then the workflow action script is basically where it says, I need to take the values from this search and pass it into this AI prompt. That's why we need a script to do that automation. Um, and then we also have an update part of that script that it says, then get back the response and update each of the records, flagging them at risk if they are, and storing what the response is. Um, but this is where you would schedule it, how often you want to run. It looks like the lowest frequency you could go is every 30 minutes. Again, if you're running this every 30 minutes, though, you're going to probably wipe out your usage pretty quick because depending on how many projects you have, it could add up quickly if you're just evaluating every single project you have multiple times a day. You probably only need this thing to run a couple times a day or once a day. I don't know that you need it to run every 30 minutes, but I think that's more of a preference.
So we got another question. Daniel, I've joined a bit late. My question is, are there any instructions, guidelines on how we can build the prompt to be as efficient as possible?
Not so much. I think it's one of those things that you kind of got to play around with it, and just through testing and refinement, you're going to get better. But as I mentioned, I was a little intimidated. Believe me, this prompt studio thing in NetSuite is not as user friendly as just, cranking it out in ChatGPT. But that's what I did is I went and asked ChatGPT, give me a prompt that I could use that would help me analyze project risk. And it gave me this. And I just copied and pasted it right here. Right. Um, so I think just you could leverage AI to help you with AI, but I mean, yeah, just the real answer is just trial and error and refinement and getting better and testing, and that worked or that didn't work, or um, that's what we've seen.
Yeah, no problem. I think that was it. Roy was just saying we should do a class on prompt studio and intelligent recommendations.
Okay, that's helpful feedback. I mean, we're always looking for suggestions on future classes, content, what would be helpful, where's some of the biggest pain points. So I know AI is kind of top of mind for everybody. So, we can try to look to do more classes in the future on it.
I just on that topic, while we're still answering questions and any Q&A, if you guys want to put in the Q&A, just open topics. If you can just take, 10 seconds to just fill out these that survey I just popped up on your screen. It's literally 7 questions, 8 questions, and it really helps us to understand what you guys want to see going forward. Putting together content's tough. Understanding what you guys want is really important. So if you can just spend a little bit of time, what you liked, what you didn't, and then what do you want to see going forward, that would be very, very helpful. Literally take you 20, 30 seconds. Um, Daniel said SOAP depreciation, SOAP depreciation. Um, and then Hera, super helpful. Yes, the recording will be available. You'll get a copy of it. Um,
Yep.
and then Roy has another question. How do errors appear if they are from the prompt studio? I guess that would be the script execution log, question mark.
Yeah, so the reason I found out that my it wasn't working was because I actually typoed when I was typing out my variables. I didn't make them match when I was kind of testing this out, and it was failing. So if we go into the script logs, I was eventually able to figure out that I had a issue there, and then figured it out. Let me see. I could think I could show that customization scripts. So you can see basically in here in the logs if there was any issues. I think I wiped the logs earlier, but at one point it was telling you here's all the variables, and I think it was erroring out. So then we figured it out. That helps.
Michael said scheduled reports generated by AI.
Scheduled reports generated by AI. Um, Again, my knowledge is this language learning model part of AI in the prompt studio is really what's available within NetSuite right now, right? This wasn't using ChatGPT, this wasn't using Claude, this is using right from my NetSuite account, the AI prompt studio and the language learning model, Oracle's language learning model is what we're using right now. I'm not aware of a use case that we can use to do reporting. Again, if you want to try to apply some of the concepts here today, like a saved search that gives you all the data and you run it into the prompt and it gives you back stuff, and then you want to send an email out, maybe telling it, I told it to give it back to me in a JSON format, right? Maybe I could have said, give me back the response in an HTML, nice, presentation format that would be, good for an executive to review. Like maybe something like that. I don't know that would be the common use case, but again, it's kind of limitless. Like you could try some things out and see if you can use it to help with better reporting and things like that. But with what I know right now, I would say using the MCP connectors, where you can connect your Claude or your ChatGPT, that stuff is actually has report tools where it can run a balance sheet, an income statement. It can run save searches, and I think that would be with what's available right now. That would be a better tool maybe for a lot of AI use cases. But at that point, it's because you're using another AI service like Claude or ChatGPT. This is all going to be fairly temporary because if anybody follows NetSuite closely or was at SuiteWorld last month, they had a huge announcement that I think it's called NetSuite Next, which is going to be where there will be AI directly in NetSuite, like an Ask Oracle agent. So you could basically start chatting with NetSuite or Oracle, asking it to do things, asking it to analyze trends, asking it to look at different reports and give you a forecast. All that stuff should be coming. I don't know. I think they said within the next 12 to 18 months. So a lot of the stuff that's here right now is more of a band-aid or stopgap until you'll just be able to do it in NetSuite. But we're trying to kind of stay ahead of the curve. We're trying to kind of help keep people informed, show them some possibilities, some use cases to, at least get the wheels turning a bit. Um, and yeah, I don't know if that helps answer that one.
So Daniel has another question. I've learned that SOAP, SOAP, will be out of support soon, and the plans to start using REST, which is far away from SOAP capability. Any ideas on this? I think it'd be a good topic for discussion, although there isn't much to showcase.
Yeah, I am not that technical in nature. Don't let me doing these demos fool you. I did not write that script, so I don't know JavaScript. I'm not a developer. I'm trying to see if we happen to have anybody from my team on the call who would be better to answer that question. But I'd have to get back to you on that one. I think I have heard about that. I've heard about the deprecation, but I could take that as a follow-up possibly for a future class discussion if that would be something everybody's interested in.
And then Roy asked, Dean, can you run a report versus save a search in the prompt studio? I assume so, since it's looking for a script ID.
Maybe. I mean, that's where I'm saying like the honest answer is I don't know. I think you'd have to try out some of this stuff to see. Um, not sure. I don't know. I don't know that one.
And then Roy was just saying, I'm thinking about things that can't be that can't be done in reports, that can't be done in searches.
Hmm.
Um, and then Matthew mentioned, is your take that NetSuite Next would be an adoption similar to Redwood, a flip of a switch, or will there be a larger migration before the AI capabilities can be used?
Yeah, I don't know. How quickly they made an MCP connector available and how quickly they made some of this language learning model stuff available tells me that I think they're just trying to get it out there and get people exposed to it, and they're hoping that, partners in the ecosystem and other and others will kind of, you know, pioneer or lead the way on some of this stuff. So, but it's hard to know. I have no idea how they'll actually handle it and when the actual rollout time will be. I mean, we all know that they show stuff at Sweet World, and it, usually takes a year or greater before it actually shows up in the environment. But um, hard to say. But it does seem like they're kind of a little more aggressive than I would have thought, making a MCP connector and some of these things. It seems like they're pretty gunnish or ambitious about it.
Um, Roy said we should do a class on financial exception management that just rolled out. We got a bunch of false positives.
Financial, is that in the chat?
Chat.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
y'all should do a class on financial exception management. Roy, do you want to come off? Can you explain that a little bit more? If you come off mute.
Give me 1 second. I'll let him come off mute. And then while he's doing that, guys, if you can just spend 30 seconds and just fill out that survey for us, that would be really helpful. Go ahead, Roy.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Roy, Cross Company. Yeah, so financial exception management just rolled out. They are giving it for free into your production accounts. You just have to go to Setup, Company, Enable Features, and I think it's under, I can't remember which tab it's under, but there's one called Financial Exception Management Tool.
Mm-hmm.
So what it's going to do is it's going to look for anomalies using AI, well, that's what NetSuite said, and it just rolled out as of 2025.2. So I enabled it in my production account because they're not rolling it out to the sandbox accounts yet. They're only doing it in
Mm-hmm.
production accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So I enabled it in our production account, and man, it was just full of like false positives. Now we've been on NetSuite for about 10 years, so we got some accumulated crud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I guess hopefully your data is good too. But yeah.
yeah, and so it's not clear on how well the tool works. It looks like it's working really well. It's just when I enabled it, I had to disable it because there was a lot of things that were end user present. Like, hey, I just submitted an expense report. Normally you choose this account for this thing. You chose a different account for this transaction. Heads up
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And it's like, I don't know if I really want my end users, all 700 of them saying, hey, we're getting this banner now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's actually good. I appreciate you saying that. That wasn't on my radar.
Hmm.
But that's something I think I'll definitely want to take a look at and see, can maybe test it out and kind of attest to some use cases or accuracy of it too. I mean, the hard part with any AI right now is nobody trusts it 100%. Right. Like that, I think the one thing that I keep hearing over and over is you need that human in the loop or human in the middle or whatever they say. But if it can still help automate, and you're just managing for, exceptions or reporting versus having to actually do mundane manual tasks and work, I think that's where the real power still is. Like I said, how would I have evaluated all my projects for risk without this? I mean, probably a save search, some type of report to try to figure it out, what's at risk, but
Hmm.
maybe download something out to Excel and do some VLOOKUPs or something. But like to just give it in plain language, like I want you to pretend that you're a project risk analyst and that you're going to look at these different things. And if this happens, then I want you to do this. And what, like, that's where I think a lot of the power is.
Yep, I agree. And so with the financial exception management tool, with the it's a portlet, and you can go
Mm,
to a page. The it acts very similar to the bank reconciliation tool within native NetSuite. So you get to define what is an exception. You can say, "Yep, I accept it. This is an exception. Move along to the next exception," kind of thing. You can kind of just like omit that one, which works really nice, but not for someone that's been on NetSuite for a few years and they've got to go through 20,000 saying,
I
don't
know.
worry about that.
You got 20,000 exceptions to review.
Right. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
I think it'll be
I
a
know
good
that's
class.
that's the one thing that scares me a little bit about this stuff too is it's like insights, right? Like, oh, insights.
Yep.
It's like, well, that's great, but if I'm getting a pop-up every 5 minutes, I think I might be less productive than productive. You know what I mean? I don't need, so of course this is all new territory for everybody. You're going to have to figure out what to adopt, what not to adopt, where to kind of push the edge versus like, nah, but we're all learning together. That's why that's why I kind of like having these classes is like, Roy, I appreciate you coming off mute, sharing your perspective, what you've seen. I mean, we're here to learn too. I don't know everything, and just so like that we don't know what you don't know. That's the saying that we hear always, and that applies even to us. So these classes are meant to be a collaborative, safe place for learning and, brainstorming and coming up with stuff. So I appreciate your input, Roy.
Absolutely. Good. Anything else, guys? Open Q&A. Doesn't have to be on the specific topic, can literally be anything.
I guess I have a question maybe out to the team or to everybody on the call, Charles, is we want to try to show a broad range of topics. So, it's not always just technical stuff. It's reporting, it could be accounting, it could be whatever. But was this class kind of on point with people's interests? Was this too technical that it was almost not helpful? That's what sometimes my concern is. If we get too into the weeds, I don't know if we're losing people. But I'm just curious, did you find at least this class, are we able to learn something today? Was there something, something engaging or informative? Or was this kind of like, cool, but I'm not, it's just too technical. Cool. I see some people put in the chat. That's helpful.
Travis said perfect level,
Good session.
good
Okay.
session.
All right. That's helpful. Yeah, your feedback. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, tell us if it's not too. I mean, we're here to ultimately make sure everybody's getting something out of it and it's engaging for everybody. So,
Excellent. Found it very useful. Appreciate you both. Okay, good. No, that's really good. Um, okay, so I mean we're at 1 o'clock, but we got time. Any more questions? Open, doesn't have to be about this topic, just open forum. Use use Dean's time as much as you can. Mm. Jessica had a good comment. She said, I really liked it. The only slight restriction is that I do not have admin privileges accounting. So there could be more sessions that are not just from admin. That's a good point.
okay.
Good. Anything else? Any other questions or comments, guys? And please fill out the survey if you can before you leave. Very, very helpful. If no other questions, and if you want to ask a question live too, we can unmute you. But I don't see any other questions coming in, so I'll give it another 2 seconds here. But we're gonna do a going, going, gone here in a minute. Going once, going twice. Yes, happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We will see you guys in December. It'll be our last one of 2025. Just give a round of applause or some thumbs ups and some thank yous to Dean for doing this right before the holiday here. Appreciate you, man. Um, that's great. So good, guys. We're done.
All
Have
right.
a great Thanksgiving. We appreciate the time. Thank you so much, Dean.
Yep.
And we'll see you guys next month.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye
See
bye.
ya.